Wait, technical difficulties.
So, can you hear me anyway?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Well, thank you very much. It was called I Hear a Rhapsody, which I wrote it. So that's on an album.
Easy Flight.
Easy Flight, right. On an album I did called Easy Flight. We have an hour and a half or so. So I usually start some of these proceedings most of the time the other way around. I'm here to answer questions that you may have. So we're going to do the question and answer part first. Are there any questions that you think that you would like to know about either my career, me, my approach, jazz music? If not, then I'll go with the connection. Any questions? Yes?
Early influences.
Early influences. All right. I had the good fortune, I guess, to be born. My father was a drummer, although I wasn't raised with him, but I did see, I think, early influences. I started playing in grade school, and whoever the top guy was in the school was my early influence to play there. By the time I got to junior high school, we had the same process. There was when I got into high school, Chico Hamilton helped me a great deal. He had graduated from the same high school. There was another guy named U.R. McCrae who was very good. Guys who had names. I was a Gene Krupa fan. They had a movie out with Gene Krupa. And I liked show business. You know, there was a guy named C.P. Johnson who played at the Lincoln Theater. We used to go see shows. And he had great long tom-toms and mallets, chorus line, African civic dancing, all that stuff, you know. And then when I went down to the orchard to see Gene Krupa, he had the keg lights and stuff. And they said that on the program, they said that he wore a silver chain to strengthen his left hand. So I went out and bought this silver chain. Didn't work, but, you know. But then later on, I heard Joe Jones. And I guess you know him as Papa Joe Jones. And that did it for me because that was the whole orchestra. I hadn't heard of it, which I'd heard of him, but those days we didn't have a home was brought up and we didn't have a record player. So I went out on the street. But I think Joe Jones became it for me from that point on. And then basically just everyone I ever heard who could play, you know, became sort of influence. I still have influences, you know. I remember when Tony came out, I didn't want to believe any young man could play like that. I was with Oscar Peterson. Someone said, "You gotta hear this cat." I said, 17, forget it, nobody. And you get intimidated after a while, you know, you see. Art Blakey, of course, was an influence. When I got in the Army, I heard people like Jack Sperling. How many of you know of Jack Sperling here? No? Well, if you go back in the archives, I saw an old clip radio show. How many of you heard Les Brown's band? You know? You should write down these names. This is part of your history. And these things are forgotten. But anyway, Jack Sperling, when I was in the Army, I heard this guy. His cymbal beat was so clean, you know. You take little things. I locked onto it right away. Shelly Manne was also good. I liked his fantasy, you know. So when I saw Ray Leduc, I loved his touch. You know, when he played, I was like Red Marble. This guy played. I saw him in the Dixieland band one time. He played. He didn't raise any higher than this on the drum. Max Roach, of course, was a great influence. So as I said before, you got the Art Blakey's, then when I saw Roy later on, trying to do some of the stuff we're all still trying to catch up with him. So I would say my main influence was Joe Jones. I have to give that to him because he was just so complete. His cymbal beat, when I heard his cymbal beat, I practiced on the pillow. Imagine the sound, and how you get the dynamics and everything like that. And then when I met him, he was very helpful. Then my father too. The time, study time, swing, just out and out swing. I grew up, that was important. If you didn't swing, it's like if you don't have a good pocket today, they would swing. If you couldn't swing, we're talking about solos and about swing, playing for the band. You couldn't get too busy, that was what they wanted you to do, was swing. So from that point on, I don't know if I lived on it, and to be honest, it doesn't stop. Influences don't stop. They're just as important. The ones I have now are just as important as the ones I had in the beginning. They all come out of something. Like today, people like Marvin Smith, people like Dennis James in another way. But I would say today, Louis Nash has got a very, he's coming out of me, coming out of Joe, doing his, adding something to it. Hip hop and stuff, and it's really nice. So, crying out loud, you, Ed Thigpen, who for me plays one of the best shuffles I ever heard. I heard Clark Terry doing this stuff. So you grab some of that, My mentor said that you have it takes many people to make up you. He said, you put me here, since you like that. He said, put Gene over here, and put Max here, so-and-so here. Don't forget your daddy, he can play, Make sure he's down there. He's already there. Acknowledge it. So you never know who you have to call. What I meant by that is that you find a situation. I mentioned Gene Cooper. I played with Terry Gibbs and Buddy Franco. And when they go into, what's that called? Boom. What's that?
Yeah, I know the tune.
It's been a good thing.
Airmail Special.
Yeah, Airmail Special. When they go into that, or you play with Teddy Wilson, you know that Teddy Wilson loves Joe Jones, he loves Gene Cooper. So you reach in and grab out parts of that and do it your own way, But you get that. It's like theater. I think of these things like when we play, it's like theater. You put on different rules, but you do it, you interpret it your own way. After you've learned what the master. And I'm taking so long on that because it's amazing that those don't be afraid to simulate or copy. Then you get your own voice. If you don't put anything in, you can't get anything out. So it's like I'm gonna do my own thing. You don't know nothing. How you gonna do something when you don't have nothing? Okay. Another question. Yes.
What are some things, if any, that Oscar Peterson...
I beg your pardon?
What are some things, if any, that Oscar Peterson told you about playing drums, playing jazz?
Oscar Peterson?
Yeah.
Names
Yes.
that he told me about?
Things that he said. Anything?
Oh, things that Oscar Peterson said outside of every other week. You're fired. Let's see about that. No, and I have to, ask me. The man is a genius, and they don't know the same second. Same with Buddy Rich. And this ties in answering the question. It's a funny thing about geniuses. They don't know that what they do is hard. It's hard. You just do it. Buddy Rich said, you just do it. I said, how would you teach somebody to play? He said, well, I give them 2 sticks, and show them a single stroke, 1 stroke at a time. Bang, bang, there's a double stroke, 2 at a time. Set down the drums, a player or not. But Oscar Peterson, some of the things. Well, mainly groove, swing. When I joined him, the devices that I use are pretty much up to me. You know, finding things to play. But the main thing, I had a problem for that particular gig when I first joined. I was solo, and mostly fair solo, because I worked with Billy Tick, and I worked with Bud Powell before him, and a whole bunch of people. But with him, it was just, you had excellence. That what we were doing had to be, on our worst night, would be better than most people on their best night. It was striving to be, wasn't even striving to be demanded. There's no cheating. You don't coast on any songs. Ballads, every song was an opener and a closer. Every song. Every beat. You wake up, you hit, bang, that's it. So I would say the most important thing I learned was that learning how to be consistent with making every hit meaningful. And to capsulize it, that would be it. That would be it. Do your job. Another thing that happened was at the beginning when we would play fours, I had a tendency to sometimes run over the bar line because at that time I still hadn't locked into certain ways of how I could really phrase making statements, so to speak. But the point is, actually, I was still running over bar lines, and I wasn't getting those figures down, and whatever. And that was, and I would always had an aversion to playing fours. I never did really particularly like playing fours, unless you're playing, you know, very creative people who give you room. The other thing I didn't like was that everything stopped, and I was used to, because coming out of Billy, and I played with Lynn Tristano and Bud and different people, I had more leeway, more freedom. With that group, he knew exactly what it was, more structured, if you understand what I mean. It swung him. He was a genius as far as, and everything. The shout choruses, everything was very precise, you know. But when it came time to play solos, I had some long solos later on. In the beginning, I went in, I was playing my solos, I had the mounts going and everything, got big applause. The part was really great. I'm just up there. He said to me one night, he says, all right, now when you learn how to play fours, you come in on one, it's like you're waiting all the time for your solo. You approach every tune the way you want to play your solo. Play for us the same way. So little by little, you begin to learn that every tune is a solo, whether you're playing time or whatever. So those are the things that I learned. Consistency, professionalism. You know, your approach to a tune. The ballad approach, a lot of people don't know he plays beautiful ballads. You know, just everything's not really fast. But again, I can't mention Oscar Peterson now in all honesty without saying, if I hadn't been with Billy Taylor, if I hadn't been with Bud Powell, if I hadn't had a chance to play with Teddy Wilson and the people before, and if I didn't like, although I didn't know the composers, if I hadn't listened to a lot of classical music, just, you know, I just enjoyed the colors of playing, and if I hadn't listened to nature, I wouldn't have really been able to hold that gig that long, to do something so, you know. So it's like being prepared. That was the main thing, excellence and consistency. Okay? Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Could you show us some vintage JoJo patterns?
Do what?
Show some vintage JoJo brush patterns?
Brush patterns?
Yeah.
You gonna be with us tonight, tomorrow?
Actually, probably not. I didn't know about it, but
Probably not.
I don't really go here anymore. So
You don't go here?
I don't go here anymore.
Oh. Well, all right. Say, do you have this?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
How many of you have this? How many of you play drums? Huh? How many of you own brushes? And how many have this? I'm going to call a whole bunch of folks up. How many will you be here tomorrow? All right. Come on, son. Anything else while this young man is coming up? Yes. For practice. Okay. That's a good question. Then we'll go to that as soon as I finish with him. Okay.
It's like going to the clinic or the doctor and you say, well, he always asks you, what is your problem? What hurts? So in other words, what do you want? Do you have any problems with these things?
Well, no, I just listened to a lot of, was listening to a lot of Oscar stuff with you, and a lot of things with JoJo, and just
Give me some. The sound of brushes. Play that. Sorry, don't look at that. You guys. Now, that'll work in certain circumstances. That's more of a legato type of beat. You understand? Now, if you have another beat that you use, right. Now, this, now can you get the same feeling? No, okay, now that's what we have to work. All right. When you're doing this, we have what we call a tick-tap sound. You'll have this tomorrow. The guys are here. We're going to work with it a lot. But as a preview, you're right at ding, 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 ding. You write it simple, the same piano. Listen to what you piano. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me see you want. The 1 is 1. This is a pulse too. 1, 2, 3, 4. No. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. See? No. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now this is important. When you're playing music, you're playing time. It's the interpretation stylistically how you're playing. When you're playing jazz, quote, which is a very short word for very broad spectrum, and we're dealing in swing bebop, the 8th note triplet comes into play. It's what I call the mini pulse, is a triplet, 8th note triplet. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now every movement is going to be based on that because of 4 note playing, right? Play based on 1, soft, 2, 3, 4. When you do that, everybody thinks, pat your foot. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now when you pat your foot, that pulse becomes 1 triplet. Say that. Look at your foot. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet. It's 4 beats, 4 quarter notes to the bottom. It's 1. Do you have to use full pedal? 2, 3, 4. Where's your bass drum? left. Now when you look at your foot and count, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, triplet, triplet. Where's your foot when you say triplet, 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 triplet? Now count, 8 notes. And. See where your foot is on the end? And. Now count triplets. Triplet, triplet. Time doesn't change, feel changes. The same thing when you have this move. 1 triplet, 2. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 5 triplet, 6 triplet. Now this is synchronized on some other foot. Now dynamically you have piano, fourth, piano, fourth, piano, fourth. Now this. Now you have a pulse. If you want to get more without feel, you go. You know what I mean? So you sort of slide across. You don't have the book.
But you're looking at the source book. It has to be a 5 to 5.
All right, but here, you have, see, this is all stroke. Right. That gives you definition. If you want to say Bible, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay? That's still Johnson. Okay? There's like variations on the theme. Again, it's like sound. When I first, some of the strokes, a lot of them, are because of circumstances. Okay. Well, John. When you hear this tune that we just got through playing, I hear a rhapsody. You hear the sound, the sound of the guitar, the sound of the bass. You know. How many of you know this song? All right, let me hear you sing it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. No. So now, which answers a question. Back to your question. Repertoire. A lot of you are taking European music, classical repertoire, right? Jazz has a repertoire. It's important to learn songs, whether it be show tunes and things, but learn the melodies to tunes. I'm sure that Mr. Soul has said that 1,000,000 times to you, right? Huh? Hello? But that's serious, right? Because it's a serious business. If you're going to approach this thing, even if it's a hobby, you might as well do it right. You know, that's the whole thing. Don't cheat yourself. So back to the question. The question was, what did I learn? From all the people I played with, is that you have an instrument which you're going to express yourself through music. So don't cheat yourself. You might as well do it right. Let it out. Even if you make a mistake, make it loud and wrong. You know what's wrong or mistake, whatever, and you fix it. So the melody is back, come on. Happy finger.
Just put it where you want. Okay, now, hear the sound of the guitar. He plays 1, 2, 3, 4. See, I'm not doing it. This is clear. Now, okay, now there's a sound there. So when you hear something, if it's a baritone saxophone, try to sing like the sound of the instruments that you're playing. Get that sound in here. And what happens is when you do that, and you play a cymbal or whatever, or the drum down here, it's a so if I'm saying this, even on the upbeats, I'm letting the sound come through the brush all the playing time. Follow what I mean? So if you're playing the same thing, if you're playing sticks, he's just soloing. Same thing with the bass drum. Listen to how the bass line runs at the time. If he's playing two in a two feel, 1, 2, 1. We did that. Good. See how long those notes are? Half notes. So down here, even though the attack is 4, the sound and the duration should be D, 4. Okay, now this time, I'm just doing it. 1. It's just 1, 2, 3. Now he's not playing, don't. practice too. See what I mean? Now, did you get the feel in there? Did you hear the melody? And that's what happens. It's subtle, it's inside, but you start living with the music. It becomes an interesting thing. Okay? All right. Yeah. Practice. What do I practice? Well, like I said, Christmas morning, I've been off a few days, and I've been over 3 weeks, and I've actually played once. So, being in shape was, so how will I start off to play? Well, I was better off than I thought. I had this wonderful gentleman to play and help me through the first piece there, so I could go along for the ride. But if I was by myself, what would I do? Well, okay. Now that was in 1954 when I was about 54 when I started. Now, if you look, there's a record. It's not answer, those Charlie's on it, and Tickle Toe, a couple of others. We'll go back, and I remember hearing him do this. Well, that became very popular when Max did it. But I heard that back in the early 40s, it had been recorded. When was that record recorded? I don't know, it was late 30s, early 40s. That's okay. So then when Roy Haynes got all that stuff together, I used to watch him. We were playing a place called the Composer Room, a little room. While the stage was here, and that was the back wall where you used to and that bar over here, and a little place over there where you could eat and stuff. And the other day I played with Earl May, who worked with Billy Taylor. And we just have to remember, now that was 1957, 58, 56, 57, 58. And he said, you realize we had no amplification ever to play concerts. There was no amps. Everything was acoustic. Now a lot of bass players today, if I pull a plug, it would pantomime up there. No sound at all. But it was amazing. We just had to say, God dang, that's right. So, but anyway, Roy came in, he was working with Barry Williams. This cat was playing around. He picked up some sticks in this little room. He's playing. I didn't have a lot of control with sticks, brushes I was pulling. And I was trying to see what time. It was swinging like a sunflower. Sometimes the time is crowded, sometimes it's over here, it might be a combination of both, might be, but it was always like this, flowing. It was linear, it just happened. And I always felt this too. Well, what I say to most of the students today is it's like getting the icing. Get the fundamentals first, then add the icing. If you don't know what it feels like to play 4/4 on the bass drum, you can't put it up here. You can't hold a band together. And if you have to put on real hard this, I guarantee you after work, Oscar Peterson, if you're not an Art Blakey, you're a lot of varicose veins, which I have. Just on myself, trying to hold 2 and 4, because that's still unbalanced. Okay, this fellow learning how to play 4/4 with the bass drum gives you a foundation. Then you can transfer that feeling. You just sit up and you feel fine. It becomes part of your attitude, because you know what it feels like. Do you understand what I mean by that? Like if you pat your foot, that's one thing. If you just think your foot, you haven't been used to patting it. You can't. It's different. You understand? So the other, another thing about that is it punctuates the bass note. So even though you're playing with amplification, think acoustic. Okay, and that's what I do. Now, what do I practice? These days, it depends on what I'm getting ready to go into. As I said before, I'm trying to do this stuff, get this foot out here with my, you'll have to forgive some of it. No, you don't have to forgive it, I'll just tell you what it is. I'm trying to develop both feet together. So what I'm doing is I'm practicing things like the boom, boom, trying to get those evens like this. And so forth and so on. But then when I get here, I try to get a nice even sound, right? If I'm coming up more, I'll do months ago, that was very difficult. But it's getting better. All I have to do is live to be an old man, I don't have to get So then I'll hear patterns. So now, right at this point, it's like just trying to, I'll spend whatever it takes until I get tired. So you hear. It's like solo. Now I'm integrated into playing time. This is mostly for solo, doing gigs or depending on the style. It's but it's starting to move now. I remember when I saw Tony when he first started at 4/4 and hi-hat years ago. It took me years, man. Believe me, I tell you. Finally, I broke through after about, I think, about 10 years. I was so used to playing 2 and 4 on the hi-hat that to break to play this time. I couldn't do that. But just over and over and over again. And then learning tunes. Now I'm busy learning rhythm. The technical thing is just the same thing, the rudiments and so forth, but then I get away from it. So I think in terms of melodies, play the lines. And basically that's it. Oh, I'm working, trying to get my quality together, because I'm the authentic things. I have what I call the hybrid music. Most of the music we've done is simulated things.
sort of things that lay within you. And I'm trying to get a quality together. And now I can remember the names of these things. I learned how to play it, I can remember the names of the, but I'm studying folk country because the guys are from Cuba, because some Cubans have come into Copenhagen now, some great metal there. I'm trying to get to really lock into that, because I really, so I understand the folklore, like, we have a fundamental thing about swing, right? There's folklore, and then you bring it, and when it gets to this country, where we're going to take it, it's what I would consider more of a hybrid, but you want to make it as authentic, because people out there who know it, they react to it. And once you have it off that quality, then you cool, whichever it is going. So whatever you want to put on top, it's okay. And it's very akin to music. That's why I said jazz, J-A-S-S, is a very small, short word for a music that has such a wide scope. When we think about the music that comes out of our heritage, which is the United States, which is a multicultural nation, and all of these are influences, back to the first question, influences, whether it was like my first influence on sound. My sound I learned was with a brush when I was about 10 years old. From a guy that was taking a snare. It was this. That's the first one I learned before I knew about Sudo. Then later on I had Carlinhos Candelo Fiore, who is quite well known in Brazil. He won Candelo 5 gold, which was really quite bad, and he was doing different things. And where Candelo held the whole orchestra, change bells and everything. And another friend, again, who, when everybody was playing straight A's. No, Ed, think like a butterfly. It's pseudos. And you can do some simple stuff, man, but the feel is right. So it's like getting the feel, the authentic feel of the music. That's how it is. And sometimes it takes a long time for it to come natural. It's just repetition. I think living, playing with people who really know the stuff. That's what I'm doing. Any other questions? How are we doing for time? All right. No questions? All right, for those who are here tomorrow, there's something I'd like to talk with you about the hi-hat. It's not music as much as, again, depending on the style. It's learning how to use it, getting the sound of the hi-hat. This, sing this. Sing. Like choosing. That's a sound of it. And that is a little open. Piano, forte. Remember that sound because that's the sound of the hi-hat, basic sound. Now,
said came with the hand. It's not. That's an exaggeration. Right. Some students come and feel like they have to hit that 2 and 4 hard over here. It's just close. The teacher, by the way, has a perfect stroke. There's 2 guys, I mean several guys, but 2 I know watching. And that's Ed and Ben Ryan. Perfect stroke. But that's very important, learning how to blend with the music. You want to try the A-train? So what I'm talking about now is learning to play these implements that we have here. Even though it's a trio, you heard the ukulele, the band. You've got it from orchestra. And you hit that first note. Doom. It's like a key. Hit first chord. Like. Get it? Line. Okay, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. See, it's in line, but it's long. That's the note. That's the first chord. Get that? So his note is boom, right? Now that's down there where that baritone was. Boom, that's that reed section. Okay, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay, now the time figure, bang, ching, chang, ching, chang, is this becomes like a motif. Chang, 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 rather than play all. Now there are other ways you can do this, but if you keep it steady, it's like playing ball. Beep, beep, boop, beep, 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 boop, beep, beep. It gives you a little flavor, but basically it's the time. If I said 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. That's one sound. When I change tempo, now, which one seems to be more effective between these 3? Which one? This one? This one for you? Okay. For me personally, if I'm thinking saxophone section, I would use this one. And the reason being, once again, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's cool. I'll have this one. That's still cool. Right here. For me, I can simulate this because it gives me. If you think of a saxophone section, and this is something maybe not discussed too much, but I remember my dad used to say he had a Chinese son. He said, Edmund, you learn how to play that fellow behind the saxophone section, he'll die. He'll just like, it's like it's acoustic lays underneath. And when I do that, you know, I'm moving back.
Great bars to hit. Because when the man comes to pay you, there used to have a thing called docking. That means they take some money from the salary, but you say, I don't want to hear it, I hit it. You are time to hit, you want your money. And the other thing was that, back to the musical aspect of drums, playing music. He said if nobody shows up, you may have to play the dance by yourself. Because we did a lot of playing for dancing. And by knowing how to play this note, you just say, now we're talking about swing now, Tom, and you'd be saying, pop. Ed, want to play oil?
Do I want to play over there?
Yeah.
Why don't you play over there?
Come on. Tomorrow we'll do our duet, okay? Yeah. Okay. So we got to add to it. Add to me.
Let's tell all of you, the Lord has blessed us with being able to have an instrument, play, wonderful instructors, good friends, and I also want to personally thank my sponsors, Sabian, Colado, Remo. I didn't get to the snare drum, but tomorrow we'll get to it, and tell you that support these people because they are interested in education. Even when the system sometimes doesn't seem to be in the corner, it's nice to have people who will give you a hand, and we have each other. And the other thing I want to say is just live and stay healthy. Believe me, I'm a living testimony to say you can do that. There's some of the stuff I can do now. 5 years ago, if you held a gun to my head and say, do that, I couldn't do it. So live and stay healthy. Everything's possible. Thank you very much. Yeah. From Europe, where it's really wonderful. Thank you very much again. Have a good day.
Yes, let's go.
Right, huh?
Yeah, I guess that way.
Open out of here.
Good. So that boy good.
I felt like my brothers in him when he was doing that snare, he was a tap dance.
Hey, are we going or what? Yeah, I guess Chris.
Could write it down.
Wow, yeah, I don't know if you should. Fire that up once.